Shoot. Okay, guys, how is it going? My name is Joseph, and we are back in here for another live. We're going to kill this live. This is going to be one of the best lives that I've ever done. I'm trying to get everything sorted out. Okay, guys, so please forgive me. Um, as usual with our lives, we're going to just make sure that our sound is working good, and then we're going to get straight into this one. I'm going to be talking about how to live a successful life today. Okay, perfect. We're sounding good. We're all good to go. I'll pull my notes up and let's get it. So, how to live a successful life? Well, we first have to define what success is. So, people tend to measure success, they look at other people. They go and they say, well, this person has a really nice house, or this person has a really nice apartment, condo. I want to live like that. And it's okay to draw um it's okay to draw from other people what it is that you want out of your life. But what I'm trying to say here is that success is defined by you. It's not defined by anybody else. It's not defined by what society says. Success is defined by you. So, moreover, to say, success by definition is the achievement of one's particular endeavors. So, if you set out and you say, I want to be a doctor, you would be a success if you, in the end of the journey of becoming a doctor, you became a doctor. You would be a failure by definition if you fail to become a doctor. If that's what you set out to do and you complete it, you are a success. For me, I set out, I wanted to be a professor. I am still in the process of doing that. I have achieved my first degree, my bachelor's in history, and now I am pursuing my master's in history. And by the end of my master's, I will be able to get a job as a professor. And after I'm able to get a job as a professor, then I will be considered a success because I achieved what it is that I set out to do. So this is a really big thing getting into what we're going to talk about, um, because you have to define. I want you guys to, if you're taking notes, this is something that you should be taking notes as you are listening to me. Get your pen and paper out. This is life-changing information. Take notes. What you have to do in order to become successful, we've already defined what success is. To become successful, there are three things you need to do. Two really big ones, but there's three things you need to do. First thing you have to do, get your paper out and write this down, or get your notes out on your phone, write this down. The first thing you have to do to become successful is you have to define your ideal scene in life. So, what is an ideal scene? Well, if you guys do not know, my family manages, we own and manage the properties that we own here in the city. What we do is manage them ourselves, and we have management systems in place so that the properties function in a way that is producing income at a high level, but also is taking care of the customer. But the point that I'm making here is that this is what I'm about to share with you is management practices that have been passed down, but they apply to everyday life. So what you want to find is the ideal scene. So your ideal scene is what you want your life to look at. See, the problem with a lot of people is they're trying to make changes in their life, but they don't have an ideal scene. I'm gonna give you guys a great example. We're gonna take my apartment, for example. When I got this apartment, none of that stuff was up there. The apartment didn't come with plants on the wall and shelves built on the wall. It didn't come like that. It didn't come with the lights above me. That didn't come with the apartment. I added all of that in. That didn't come. But when I got this apartment, I had an ideal scene. I wanted the apartment to look like this. And so I set out to create a situation. We're going to talk about situations in a minute. I set out to create a situation where my apartment matched my ideal scene. Now, there's reasons why my ideal scene is like this. Particularly, one of the big reasons is I enjoy plants. I love plants. They're beautiful. Even though they make me sneeze when I'm trying to sleep, they're beautiful. They're a great addition to a home, make it feel like a very homey space. But I also I wanted a safari-ish kind of look in my apartment. I have plants on the other walls too. I have plants all over my windows. So the point is that this is the ideal scene that I wanted. And so for your life, you have to define what your ideal scene is. So I'm gonna give you guys a couple of categories to look at as we talk about the ideal scene. So the first thing that I want to discuss with you is I want you to think about your quality of life. What is the ideal scene for your quality of life? What type of neighborhood do you want to live in? What kind of people do you want to live around? How many bedrooms do you want? Do you want to have a 2-story, 1-story? What kind of um yard? I mean, like, do you want to have trees? I mean, like, get as specific as you possibly can when you are thinking about your ideal scene. Whatever it is, get as specific as you can with your ideal scene. The next one I want you to think about is your monetary worth. How much money do you have in the bank? Do you have any assets? Do you have any liabilities? What is your monetary worth? What is your net? What are you worth? If you were to die today, what are you worth? I want you to think about that. And if you're not where you would like to be in terms of monetary worth, okay, we got a situation. How do we get our ideal scene of having, let's say it's $1 million? How do we get our ideal scene of having $1 million? How do we get our situation? Right now we got zero. That's our situation. How do we get our situation to match our ideal scene? We're gonna talk about that in a minute, but I'm trying to really drill this idea of ideal scene in y'all's head. So the next thing I want you to think about is relationships, and I want to share a personal story with this one. So relationships, do you have the type of friendships that you want to have? What's your ideal scene for the kind of people that you want to have in your life? What's your ideal scene if you're a woman? What's your ideal scene for the kind of man you want to date? If you're a man, what's your ideal scene for the type of woman that you want to date? Speaking as a man, um, does what kind of woman is she? Is she submissive? Is she more masculine? Is she pretty? Is she petite? Is she medium build? Like, get as specific with these ideal scenes as you possibly can. Is she funny? Is she a pleasure to be around? Get as specific as you can with the ideal scene. So for me, this is something that I need to work on, because quality of life, my ideal scene for now in my life, I'm at my ideal scene in terms of quality of life. I live a life of abundance. I don't have anything that I go without. Monetary worth, I am not where I want to be in terms of my ideal scene of monetary worth, but I got a plan to get my situation to the ideal scene. But with relationships, my situation with the relationships is right now I'm single. I'm not dating anybody, but my ideal scene is I want to have a good relationship. I want to get married. I want to have children and so forth. I want to go through life with somebody. I want to build a life with somebody. So that's my ideal scene. Is that's what I want. But I got a situation because right now I'm single and I'm not I'm very far away from that ideal scene because I'm not talking to anybody right now. So I'm very far. I mean, I'm not in any big social circles where I'm going to be meeting women. So I got to figure out how I can get to my ideal scene of meeting a woman of that particular caliber who I can walk through life with, who is submissive, who is very attractive, and so forth. I got to figure out how I can get to that ideal scene. And the last category I want you guys to think about is spirituality. What's your ideal scene for your spirituality? Do you want a relationship that's very close with God? I think that I reckon that most people you should want that. Um, are you a spiritual person? Do you read the word as much as you would like to, or whatever scripture you believe in? Are you What is your ideal scene for your spiritual aspect of your life? What is your ideal scene? And you might not have none. You might not have no ideal scene. And so your situation matches your ideal scene. If you're an atheist, your situation matches your ideal scene. You don't have an ideal scene, and you don't have a situation then because you don't have an ideal scene. So we're gonna talk about situations. This is the next thing. We're gonna bring everything together with the ideal scene. A situation is a condition. It is first. There's two definitions I want to share with you guys. A situation is a departure from the ideal scene. It is a condition that is contrary to your ideal scene. So basically, you're not at your you're not in the state of your ideal scene. So anytime you're not in your ideal scene, you have a situation. If you're not in the ideal scene, you have a situation. Now, here's the thing about situations. A situation exists whether or not you choose to deal with them or not. Whether or not you choose to handle a situation or not, the situation exists. Give you guys an example with me with relationships. Whether or not I choose to try to make efforts to get to my ideal scene, my situation right now still exists. And that situation is that I am not at my ideal scene for that particular category of my life. I'm not. So situations do not handle themselves. That's basically the thing about situations. Sometimes people think that things will go away, situations will handle themselves. Um, or you might just stumble upon the right person. No, for the most part, situations have to be handled, and you have to methodically figure out how you can get your situation to your ideal scene. So let's go back to ideal scenes for a minute because I really want to change some people's lives today. If you are living your life and you do not, and there's something in you where you don't feel completeness, you feel like you're lacking. So, like for me, when I say quality of life, maybe right now your situation is you're living with your parents. Maybe right now your situation is you're living in a one bedroom apartment and your ideal scene is you want a home. Whatever it is, if you lack completeness, then you have to go about making changes to get to the ideal scene. Here's why. If you are not trying to get to your ideal scene and you are content with the situation that is not in congruence with your ideal scene, by definition, that is insane. It's insane. You, by definition, are acting against your own best interest if you are not making efforts to get to your ideal scene. Because whatever it is that comes up when you think about these ideas, these different categories, and where you would like to be in life, whatever it is, that's what deep down you innermost desire. And life is about getting to that place where you get the things that you deeply desire. There's no reason why in this life and in this country that you should go without something that you desire. If you desire it, you deserve to have it. Like for me, I desire to have a good relationship. I deserve to have a good relationship. You might desire to have a house. You deserve to have a house. The problem, sometimes people, we talk ourselves out of our dreams versus talking ourselves into them. We say, "Oh, well, it's not my time. I don't deserve this. My family didn't have anything. I who am I to, they didn't really do a whole lot. They lived in an apartment their whole life. Who am I to desire this and desire that?" So you try and suppress it, and suppression of the ideal scene leads to unhappiness. You cannot be happy being suppressed of who you truly are, because you're denying yourself the full expression of who you are as a person. So whatever it is that you want, that ideal scene that you set up, you have to first assess the situation and be truthful about the situation, and then figure out how to get to the ideal scene. So here's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about two things and we're going to get up out of here. The first thing is I'm going to teach you guys how to assess your situation. The second thing is I'm going to teach you guys how to deal with situations. So let me drink some lemonade real quick. Pull my notes up. The way you assess your situation is you have to look at the situation. You have to recognize that you are not in your ideal scene, because the first part is to get the ideal scene. If you don't have an ideal scene, then you have nothing to judge your situation against. Like if you're just in a situation and you're just going through that situation, you have nothing to judge it against unless you set forth an ideal scene. So the first part is to get the first part of assessing your situation is to have the ideal scene. You can't do one before the other. So you have to have the ideal scene to assess your situation. Then as you look at the situation, you determine where you're at for this particular category that you're trying to get to a particular ideal scene. You assess, okay, well, where am I at in the scope of this of this ideal scene? And then you determine a course of action. So how do you handle? Course of action is handling. The problem most people make is that they try to make drastic changes overnight. The reality is, when you're trying to handle a situation, you cannot handle a situation overnight. Most situations, when we're talking about of this degree, You cannot handle them overnight. And you don't want to make big, drastic changes when you're trying to handle a situation. It's best to have a methodical, thought out, slow plan to addressing your situation. That's why people tell you on the road to becoming self-employed, don't quit your job. I remember when I first started stock trading, there was like I was making thousands of dollars a month. Don't quit, and people were telling me, don't quit your job. There's a reason why they're saying that. You don't go in life, this is a rule of thumb for life, you don't go and you make drastic changes overnight. That's not how you move in life. It's not how you should move in life, rather. You can move however you want to move, but that's not how you should move in life. So when you're handling your situation, when you're looking at your situation, let's just take a monetary example. Maybe you got $10,000 right now. You want to have $100,000. Okay, well, your ideal scene is I want to get to $100,000. I'm at 10,000 now. What methodical plan can I put together that's going to get me to my ideal scene, which is having $100,000? So for you, what that might look like is cutting back some expenses. It might look like picking up another job. It might look like starting up a business. It's a variety of things that could work for you, but you got to figure out a methodical plan of how I can get to my ideal scene. So that is the gist of it. If you understand the concept of the ideal scene, and you understand how to assess your situation, and then you understand how to address your situation, handle your situation, you got life made. You can conquer whatever it is that you want to conquer in life, because everything in life really comes down to the ideal scene. We use this in the management of our properties. We have an ideal scene of what we want this property to run like, what kind of problems we want to have, what kind of problems we don't want to have. We have an ideal scene, and we use that in our management system to manage the property. And the goal of managing the property, basically of running any business, is to maximize revenue and limit expenditures. And so the ideal scene is set up in such a way where that is the primary goal. But the idea of the notion of the ideal scene can work in any sphere of life, to get you to the place that you want to get to. But basically, in essence, what it comes down to is you got to figure out what it is that you want, figure out where you are in your life, judge against where you are, what you want in your life, and then figure out how you can bridge the gap. And once you figure out how to bridge the gap, you set that plan in place, you go implement that plan, and eventually you're going to get to your ideal scene. But if you don't know what you want in life and you just moving aimlessly in life, you're going to get aimless results. You can't input nothing and expect the output. You got to input something to get something out. So we're going to leave it at that, guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I hope that this video changes thousands of, not millions of people's lives. And until the next time, my name is Joseph, and I'm out. Peace.